Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your transparent look into life as a modern designer. My name's Tom Ross, and I'm the founder at designcuts.com. And this week I'm joined by American retro design expert Dustin Lee and the incredibly talented South African illustrator Lisa Glans. In this week's episode, we talk about the serious issue of people stealing your work. From Lisa's terrible experience with a big corporation illegally sharing her work, to the day-to-day theft that occurs in the design industry. We discuss how to keep a positive mindset, how to avoid losing your motivation, and what legal steps you may have on your side. This is the dark side of design, folks, so let's get into the show. So today we're actually answering another listener question, which I'm super excited about. And this is one of your followers, I believe, Dustin.
It is. This comes from Julie Lopez, who said, I'm curious what the honest designers think about people stealing your art. I think it has been an issue for Lisa, and I'm wondering if it's just something you have to expect and accept when your art becomes popular.
That is a really good question. Is it, wait, Julia, you said?
It's Julie. Mm-hmm.
Julie. Okay, that shows how little caffeine I've had today. Julie. Okay, so yeah, amazing question from Julie there. And this is something which we get asked at design cuts by people. We see people talking about it on social media. I think it's a pretty big issue. And I think it's something that can actually be really detrimental because it can put people off. It can either, they're so worried about it, they don't get started, or it demotivates them to the point of them stopping or reducing what they're doing because they kind of fixate on it. Over to Lisa, though, because as Julie mentioned, I think you really have bore the brunt of this.
Yeah, I've had quite bad experiences, unfortunately. The short answer to her question is yes, it is something you need to expect, unfortunately. But I also need to say that you don't even have to be prolific to unfortunately be victim to it. So I think it's everyone suffers from this bad side of selling digital products. I mean, if you think about it, you're a musician or a writer, an artist, everyone's stuff just gets stolen all the time, and it does require a way to work through it in your brain, because it can get you down to a point where you don't want to do it anymore. Because I got to that point. I actually wanted to give up because I got so frustrated. It was like, so many things were coming at me related to people, either misusing my work or stealing it or, copying my work. And then...
Did you quite literally want to give up? Like you literally thought about closing up shop and walking off with your briefcase to like a different place?
Yeah, totally. I phoned Cliff, and I was in such a state because I had a really bad one. I had a big company steal my work and then sell it.
Lisa, is this the one that I helped you research? And
yeah.
I presume we can't mention specifics. I don't know if that's an ongoing legal thing or what.
No, it's been resolved, but...
Okay. So funny that it's like kind of inappropriate to call out people on this, but like they're doing it to us. But I guess it just shows the decency of most people not to do this.
I know. I'd really love to call them out, but... I guess
maybe update me after this episode because I was hoping you'd find a resolution.
Links in the bottom of the podcast.
Like who not to buy from in the future. Yeah.
Seriously. So, but yeah, it was bad. It was like a supposedly reputable company like mass distributing your stuff for free without crediting you or asking your permission or anything.
Or even proper licensing it. I mean, they literally and unfortunately I wasn't the only one, because basically they were selling a CD of my work and 4 other artists as part of a package, and it was literally sold all over, like nationwide, in the UK, on Amazon. I mean, every single website you can think of. So it was a serious blow, and I phoned Cliff at the time, and I suppose this shows that I'm just human. I just freaked out. I mean, I was in such a state, and I just said to him, I don't want to do this anymore. This is broken me. I have to be honest, and I just can't take it anymore, So it did take me a while to calm down. I'd say a couple of days to, reach like a perspective on the whole thing. And then, of course, it's a battle of getting them to understand what they've done wrong and, seeking some kind of legal
Which is
action.
pretty obvious, you would think.
Yeah, I can tell you now, 9 times out of 10 of people that I've approached when they've done, used working correctly or stolen my work, deny it. They honestly think they haven't done anything wrong. So,
well, what's the rationale though? So let's say I was selling your work. What would I say?
They believe that by buying, because from a marketplace where I sell it from, like on Design Cuts, they believe because they've bought it off Design Cuts, they now in a way own it. And they think because I've bought this license, it's now I can do what I want. I can resell it.
They haven't bought a license.
No.
They think they own it, which is nuts. And we're like as clear as you can be with our license, saying what you can and can't do. But it's always going to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think it's because digital, especially this kind of digital products, are fairly new. I mean, we're a new industry if you think about it. So we're still at the phase of educating buyers of what it means to buy products like this. You're not buying the rights. You're buying you're buying a license to use it. So you're not buying the actual stuff that you own. You're actually just buying, the fact that you can use it on your products or whatever it is that you're creating. And people don't take the time to read the license properly, unfortunately. And yeah, they just think because I've now spent $10 on the set, I can go and make $10 million off it. It's you can't. Yeah,
it's a great fantasy world to live in.
Yeah.
It would be like leasing a car and then selling the car.
Yeah. So unfortunately, there's that kind of stealing of work. And then there's a blatant stealing of work where they haven't even bought it and they just somehow got hold of it through, pirates, ways of doing that. And then they basically, list it on their website or they give it away for free on, different platforms and that kind of thing. That kind of stealing, for me, I actually have written off. I don't know about you guys, Dustin. I don't know. Have you written that kind of thing off? Where I literally don't even bother approaching those pirate websites. It's because they're not your customer. They're never going to buy anyway. They want things for free. They're going to find ways to get things for free. They're the same people who download music for free. They're the same people who, bootleg movies and books and
exactly. And you put it correctly. They're not your customer.
No.
And so you're not technically losing any money.
No.
It might be wrong and immoral.
Of course it's wrong.
Incredibly annoying. But I think that's a good mindset because when people start thinking, oh, I'm losing millions here and I might as well give up. No, you're not.
No. Yeah. So it's taken me, to be honest, 2 years to really get to the place where I'm at now in terms of mental, peace about the whole situation. And funny enough, it's that whole thing of silver lining stuff. The recent issue that I had with this large company, it kind of flipped a switch in my mind about this whole stealing of your artwork, and it's made me more, how do I say, like, I guess less precious about my work. I'm kind of, I now see it more as a I can't even find the right words. Like, it's almost like it's my duty. I create something and I put it out there, and it almost doesn't belong to me anymore. Although obviously it does, But I want people to enjoy it, and so if somebody steals it and doesn't, pay the right license or whatever, I can't control that. But I don't want to stop creating because people are horrible,
Yeah, of course.
It's difficult.
So yeah, I think that's a really healthy perspective, and as you say, it took you a while to get there. I know we've had several conversations over the years about this where you have been really upset or feeling on the back foot with it. We've seen this a lot because obviously we work with a ton of designers, and we've seen even stuff where people have set up either a site where it's like, here's everything these hundreds of designers and thousands of designers make available for free, Or even worse, in my opinion, is when they say, oh, I've got a new membership site. Download this stuff from the top 1,000 designers in the world, and they probably got some from us, some from other marketplaces online.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, and it's $1 or something.
Yeah.
So
it's insulting. It's like,
oh yeah, it's insulting, and it's like a terrible looking website, and it's clearly not legit. But I guarantee they are making some money. Hopefully not very much.
Yeah.
And the whole thing's just depressing. And I think if it was just my work, I would fall into your camp of just leaving it because it's a drain on your mental resources. But
it is.
I almost feel like we have an obligation with the designers we work with, where quite often we will contact the hosting company and get them shut down if we possibly can, because it's so wrong. It's so wrong.
It is wrong.
I don't think most people think they're doing something horrible. I really don't. I think there's very few people that truly believe they're awful people doing something. I think most people are doing something and they somehow convince themselves in some way. Like, for instance, how Lisa described how the person said, well, I bought this and I thought I was allowed to sell it. I personally don't think most of those people really believe that, but they've kind of convinced themselves that that's okay somehow. And so they do it, because what I've noticed is when people do really crappy stuff, when you actually write and confront them, they tend to turn into like magically, they turn into like these human beings that like have like, you know, are very understanding. I've had people take things down and apologize and tell me how much they love what I'm doing. And they're so sorry. They've even admitted they were wrong and said, I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. I made a bad mistake. It was a bad decision. I don't know why I did it. So it's quite interesting. I think when people are hidden in the dark recesses of the web, not thinking anyone's seen it, they don't think as much about it. But I think most people are overall pretty decent.
That's a very kind outlook.
I
don't like it when I see it. I mean, I'm with Lisa. Like, Lisa, you had said, I get Google alerts, so I see every time my name comes up. So I see these things come up on these sites with really weird URL addresses, and I go to them, and you can see that you can download my stuff there. And in very blatant on large platforms, when see people steal, I use a kit that someone offers on Lynda. Vaughn offers on Lynda that it actually includes cease and desist letters and various things, and they're quite effective. And I've had people drop things because of that. But if it's like a random site where people download stuff, I tend to ignore it because I got so upset about it for so long. We're talking me like popping anxiety pills, like, because I was so stressed about it.
Yeah.
And then I just realized I can either spend all my time doing that and make zero money and get frustrated, or I can just focus on how lucky I am that things are working out and invest the time in making more stuff. And the last thing I'll say, if I can go on a rant here, is that one other opportunity is Trojan horse it, baby. So, so what I did on some, and I really should do this more, is I would just make sure the PDF was part of it, because these people by definition are lazy. Like, they're not making their own things, they're stealing stuff. So I would put PDFs inside of it, and then I would have links to more free stuff and like plenty of information about my site and ways to get there, in hopes that, hey, if they're going to distribute this, maybe I'll get some traffic. I don't know if those people buy, you're right, they're not really your customer, but I figured at least like I can leverage something maybe.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's not a bad option.
When you said Trojan horse, I was stuck on the word Trojan, and I thought you meant like deliberately add viruses, so that they start spreading a virus to all the people getting it for free.
I still think there is a huge market if somebody somewhere can invent, like, I don't know, some kind of digital signature that, I don't know, that does exactly that.
They do have PDF stamping. It's just they don't have like zip file stamping or something like that I'm aware of.
There's a huge market. I still think that because our industry is so new, that there's scope for growth, and developing tools like this to help us is still out there. It's still going to happen. But yeah, in the meantime, I don't know, we're at war with this stuff, I guess. I don't know.
Something you've both said though so far is shifting your mindset into being proactive.
Yeah.
Not getting hung up on this stuff, because it can be really damaging. It can be damaging to your mental health. It can detract from you actually creating new stuff. And I think a lot of people underestimate how damaging it is becoming, because I've never talked to anyone where they raise this and they sound calm, or they're just like, oh yeah, I'm aware of this, but I'm doing my thing. They always come to me in a state of panic. And it's like, it's all I've been able to think about for days. And
it's true. It does. It eats at you. It like absolutely. I mean, I've woken up at 3:00 in the morning and just being absolutely irate, like I want to kill someone, But
yeah, so your personal life is going to suffer from that. You're going to be sleep deprived, stressed. Your creativity is going to suffer. Your business is going to suffer. It's like, is all of that worth it just for some douchebag the other side of the world?
I mean, it got to a point where I was literally everything I was creating or making, I was like, what's the point? Because this is going to be stolen. I mean, I was literally thinking that, and
that's so sad.
It is sad. It's terrible. And I mean, I was in such a bad space. I mean, I'd say to Cliff, like, I've just finished this in the set, but what's the point? Because it'll be stolen in a day. So yeah, it can really break you. That's why I try, and it's that whole ostrich thing. I actually don't want to know about the people who steal my work. I don't know, maybe I'm being stupid about it, but obviously I want to know the big stuff that it's totally wrong. But
of course, and there can be legal benefits, obviously. So if something huge happened and was clearly wrong, that could be a big financial win for you, as it quite rightly should. You should be compensated. So those are worth chasing. But yeah, I think the thousands of little shareware sites all over the place, it's too hard to chase, too hard to monitor, too hard to shut down. Was there a particular moment of revelation for you that shifted your mindset? Because it sounds like you're in a much calmer place now. Was that a gradual thing or a certain, or rather a sudden revelation?
I think it was a gradual thing, but a sudden shift in a day, if that makes sense. So it was all these events happening and me slowly sort of trying to figure out a way to cope with them, because it's not going to go away. You have to cope. It's just, you have to find a way to manage it. Otherwise it'll eat you alive and you'll end up not, enjoying what you do. So I knew that. I knew in the back of my mind I had to find a way. And I don't know, it was just, I was walking one day with my dog and I just realized it's like only thing you're responsible for is what you bring to the table. So if you're sitting down, you're creating and you're doing it with joy, you're doing it with the love of the craft, and you really, really, truly want to help the customers that you care about, the ones that care about you and so on. And then once you put it out there and you let it go, there's nothing you can do. You can't control it. You can't run around and baby it and change its nappy. And, it's just, you can't. You just have to. It's got to grow on its own, and it's going to take a life of its own. And that is the same thing whether the product's going to be successful or not. You can only help it along so much.
So true. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's.
I don't know if you've experienced this, but I've experienced a similar thing where so many things would get me stressed out about doing work. I would worry about how something would perform. I'd worry about people stealing work. I would worry about other people coming out and not really stealing it, but kind of copycatting a really similar thing.
Yeah.
And I would just obsess. I would start watching them and paying attention to them and what they were doing. And every day when I woke up, the first thing I would do was rush to my computer and go see what they were doing. And then on the days when they did that, release something or put something out there, that was a bad day, because then it started the day off and I just festered in me all day. And I felt like I had to work harder and I had to try to get ahead of this person that I felt like was stealing something from me.
Yeah.
And I was miserable and I was angry and I felt sick inside. And then I had a moment like you. It slowly built up like that. And one day I was just like, I'm just not going to live like this. I'm not going to look anymore. I'm not going to pay attention anymore. I'm just going to do the stuff that makes me feel good, which is making the stuff I think is neat.
Yeah.
And offering it to people that are interested in seeing it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to look. Like, I literally stopped looking at anything related to anything that didn't make me feel good. And I don't think of it as like putting my head in the sand. I think of it as, like you said, like, if I can't control it, I don't look at it. If it's something that I can control, then I'll address it. But you can't, because you'll go insane.
You will. And it's that whole thing of how do you want to spend your energy? And I don't mean like your day-to-day minutes, that as well, but just literally your, we only have so much energy in the day to give to certain things. And do you want to spend that energy on, looking at other people's stuff and getting frustrated and irritated and whatever that they've copied you, or do you just want to rather do a better job? And it's that whole thing of like, I mean, my portrait creator is actually a good example. I have to be honest. I sound weird. I feel like I'm gonna expose myself now, but like when I created that and I came up with a concept and I put it out there, when I hit publish or for sale or whatever, the first thought that went through my mind was, try and copy that, you mother. Because I thought to try and copy that is going to be hard.
That's great. But people have.
They have, and they haven't, I think, succeeded.
No, they haven't. And I think it's a broad enough idea that there have been some unique takes on it, where I would actually see them more as homage to what you created instead of a direct ripoff.
Exactly.
Where I've seen some where it's like build your own cartoon portrait. And it would be a completely different, like, wacky style.
Yes.
And there was a build your own monster thing, which we sold as well, which was a lot of fun. And so I think that I don't see that as stealing. I see that as inspiring, like, the next generation.
Absolutely.
And they're helping to move forward the industry and innovate.
Exactly.
And all that stuff is quite exciting. And that's the nature of trends. And I think when you're a trend setter, you should take that stuff as a compliment.
Yeah.
It's more when it's just a complete and clear ripoff. That's different territory, of course.
Yeah.
Lisa and I were talking before we started recording, and I think this is fairly true, is someone shouldn't build a look without a name on what you've done and say, that is definitely Lisa, and then click on it and it's not. If it's so much like that the person is confident that it's Lisa, say, and then it's not, that's too close. You know what I mean? Like, there's lots of, we were saying that there's lots of things that are similar to that because there's just styles and there's lots of stuff similar to my stuff, but you shouldn't look at something and it's so clearly
the
looks
same
like that you're confused.
Yeah.
I've never seen that because whenever people try and rip off someone else, it is never up to par. Without fail, you can see it's a rip off. So I would extend what you're saying, where I think it's not great if you see it and you go, I can see that's someone trying to rip off Lisa.
Yeah, I do get it.
You get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. Look, I mean, obviously, because you looking at it from a skilled sort of, I don't know, like a full-on design eye where you deal with these products all the time. So you're able to distinguish very clearly whose work is whose. But, there's some people out there who don't necessarily know the difference, I guess. And I mean, I get a lot of emails from people saying, "Oh, this person's, stolen your work," and I have a look, and it's not my work. They've just copied me, So it's
Well, sometimes things are so close, like as a combination and as a whole. One piece you look at, you're like, "Oh, well, that's not copying," but then you're like, "Oh, but it has this aspect. The copy is word for word the same.
Correct.
This part's the same." And then you're like,
exactly.
It would be like a crazy coincidence that wouldn't happen in the universe, maybe in some other multiverse. It's so close. You're like, clearly this person looked at this and then did something.
Yeah.
It breaks my heart when I see this with any type of creativity, to be honest. And I see it a lot with stuff in the fashion world. Occasionally you'll see a post that goes a little bit viral, or it's a friend of a friend or whatever. And it's normally a designer who goes, I was really proud of this t-shirt design. And it was kind of selling decently on my shop. And it got picked up by the supposed design team of some huge worldwide fashion brand. And they basically stole it. It's exactly the same. They've now sold millions of this item. And they get into a legal battle and quite often, unfortunately, get stamped down by the giant who have more legal resources and they just can't afford to fight them.
Yep.
And thank goodness for social media where people can expose this and rally around it and champion the artist. Although still often it doesn't lead to the resolution they're hoping for. And I just think it's so wrong. It's like we need to change our legal system to accommodate more for this, because obviously it is quite a modern phenomenon, but it is.
Well, it shouldn't be that he who has the most money wins.
Yeah, like, and that's not something you can say, I'll just get over or ignore it or whatever. Like, that is something where you should have absolute legal recourse, and you often don't, I think. And whenever they share it, they're pouring their heart out and they're so upset, and all their fans and followers are there supporting them and outraged, and it's just terrible. It's like the ugliest side of our industry, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it's something like really disturbing is this is rampant all over the place. For instance, here there's a pizza chain in the United States. Not one of the really, really big ones. It's a new kind of boutique one, but it's starting to pop up in different cities. And they just blatantly got a designer that I know really well. He had done a bottle cap with this really beautiful bottle cap logo thing. And they just took it and put it in their stores. And he took a picture of himself on some various designers that were pretty influential, shamed the company. Of course, they still kept it. And he went into the store and literally like stands, and behind him is his own work painted gigantic onto their wall.
That is crazy.
It's insane. It's insane. And, you know, like you said, Tom, it really is who has the most money before they run out.
But that's the thing. That's where the inequality comes in, because if you're fighting these huge corporations, you don't stand a hope in hell. I mean, you don't have the backing that they do. And I think, as you said, that's where the legal system needs to, I don't know. That whole picture of a scale, to me, just, it don't work. It's not working, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm sure there probably is, but I love the idea of some hero lawyer who is championing artists, because I think a lot of the time it is so clear cut that if they actually did have any degree of legal clout, it should be an easy win for them.
Yeah.
And then as the artist, I wouldn't care if they got X percentage commission on that win if they were really fighting in my corner.
Exactly. Yeah.
So for any lawyers listening, if it's not already being catered to, maybe it is, and there's people already doing this really well. But I would think there was definitely potential there, because it's so black and white, you would think. Or maybe that's just to us as the outraged artists.
Well, you see, that's the thing. We think it's black and white, but
they sidestep it, right?
Yeah, even in my case, where it literally, in my opinion, and you know, the license opinion, everything, it is black and white. I still had information from the lawyers saying, if you're going to fight this in court, it's going to be a long battle, and you need to prove so many things, and it's not as black and white as you think. And you know, the whole copyright or intellectual property laws are so strict and complicated that it's not as clear cut as you think. So
and you figure these people have, you know, big corporations where there's all sorts of people, and no one's particularly sitting around worrying about it, wringing their hands. And if you decide you want to get into a battle about it, you're kind of agreeing to, I'm going to worry about this am I willing to worry about this for 18 months?
Thank you for bringing that up, because that's the other thing that I had to weigh up. You know, am I going to really do the whole lawyer route, and it's going to drag on for a year or 2 years? Because it can. You know, then you literally probably become this skinny little thing because you've so stressed out for 2 years. You know, you just don't eat. Or do you just try and find a middle ground and hope that you can negotiate out of court, you know, which is what I went for in the end. And I'm glad I went that route. Obviously, you know.
So it was a settlement, but not exactly what you were hoping for by the sound of it.
Yes, basically. It was, you know, I kind of, you win some and lose some in that situation. So,
sure.
I think you have to be careful if you want to go to the legal route, because it can drag out, and it's tricky.
I just want to mention for designers listening, my friend Vaughn Glitchka, he teaches classes on Lynda, and one of the ones he's done, because he's really adamant about copyrights and work not being stolen, he's worked with a lawyer in the Portland area where I live, and they've released on Lynda a whole course with templates that you can use, and they've been really effective for him. In fact, I know for a fact he's sent them out numerous times and actually gotten financial compensation back, because they essentially just put an ultimatum and say, you know, we can agree on a financial compensation and call it all good, or the next time you hear from me, it won't be me, it will be a lawyer.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I don't have the name. Maybe I can give you the link and we can put it in if we really need to. But if you look on Lynda and look up Vaughn Glitchka, you'll find it.
Exactly. I was going to say, just search Lynda Vaughn Glitchka.
Yep.
That sounds like a great resource, and it alleviates the stress, because I'm not actually the best at wording up these types of emails. I'm more into the friendly, personable emails, but when it goes all legal, it's not my comfort zone. So if it's like a copy and paste job and you're like, okay, that's dealt with until I hear back at least.
I mean, I totally used Cliff for those emails, because I would have been too nice, which is ridiculous. But you know what I was thinking as well that has helped me reach the mental state that I have.
Which is insane.
Yeah. We all know that.
Sorry.
Thank you
That
for
just
pointing that
sounded
out.
funny to me.
We have to remember, imagine being Britney Spears or Madonna or Bruce Springsteen or any of these people. Imagine how much of their work has been stolen over their career. It must have been insane amounts. Like, honestly, insane amounts. And
yeah,
it's kind of like it's normal, which is terrible. It shouldn't be normal, but it is.
I've got a great example of this.
Yeah.
I was up in London last night, and I was walking past this kind of marketplace stall, and they were selling all kinds of crap, including they'd printed out a bunch of celebrities' faces and turned them into masks. And maybe they went through the proper channels of merchandise and commission. I would imagine probably not. Yeah. And imagine being that celebrity. So we're getting worried about people selling our work. If you're literally like walking past, you're like, someone's selling my face without my permission.
But there is a culture. Well, I think the younger generation, and so you can totally call me out if I'm wrong. I think that they believe that once it hits the internet, it's kind of free for all. It's public domain. You can do what you want. It's on the internet. You can download it. You can use it. You can share it. You can. Yeah, I mean, I've read so many posts where people have been discussing piracy and stealing of work, and literally there are some that say, "What's wrong with you? There's nothing wrong with people admiring your work enough to share it with friends and make copies of it." And they literally don't see the problem, but the artists have to live. They have to eat and breathe and carry on making work. And without getting paid, that's just not going to happen. So,
well, I think sometimes the amount of money some, especially musicians make, it seems so overwhelming to people from the past, at least. I know they make very little compared to what they used to. But, it used to be, I mean, these people were just so fabulously wealthy from how many records they'd sell, that I think it becomes abstract, where you're just like, they have $500 million and I have not enough to pay all my bills this month. What's wrong with me downloading it? It becomes this weird, I don't know, dichotomy, and it's not right, but it creates this weird thing. And now I think it really is a lot like that, where because they don't sell records and because, places like Spotify or Apple Music, whoever, give them such a small percentage, oftentimes I think they're not making as much as they used to.
They're not.
Yeah, and you're only thinking of the real big names. Musicians are very much part of the starving artist stereotype for good reason. Most of them are struggling unless they're right at the top of their industry.
Exactly.
So they actually need supporting the most. I have to give a shout out because he's not here. We are without Ian, of course.
Yeah, we didn't mention that. Sorry.
That's all right. I don't think anyone noticed. No, I'm going to give a shout out to Ian's best friend in the world, his builder, who's been mentioned a few times on the show. And my point is that I think it comes down to that tangible, physical goods thing.
Yeah.
People would not get well, they can't, for one, but people wouldn't, generally like steal something out of your house, or if you produced a table or something in a shop, they wouldn't just steal that, run out the shop, and then start selling it somewhere else. So people's mindset really hasn't caught up with the whole digital goods thing being something that does make people a living, that shouldn't, it should be treated in the same way as physical good. And I think we've all been guilty of this, right? We probably all stream music illegally at some point. I remember. No. Okay, all right, goody two shoes.
Sorry.
We all used to see the things at the start of a DVD where it's like, you wouldn't steal a phone, you wouldn't punch an old lady, but you're going to burn the CD. And I'd watch those and be like, yeah, but it's not really the same. But as you develop a career being an artist, you realize it actually is, fundamentally, in terms of what's right and wrong and what's legal and what impacts people on a very real level.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same as software, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure today there's still, that's probably why Adobe decided to do the whole subscription thing. They're probably so sick and tired of people stealing their software. So
completely.
yeah.
I think pretty much every designer I've ever talked with has had illegal copies of Adobe at some point. Is that common?
To be honest, I haven't. I mean, is there something wrong with me? I don't know. Maybe it is.
I would say you're too pure, but we've all kind of seen little insights into your dark side, which is...
She says holding a glass of wine in her hand.
We've all got our vices.
Yeah.
You're too drunk to download Photoshop illegally. That's the issue.
It would be interesting to see how many people truly steal stuff, because I like to think, and I actually really do think, that most people don't.
Yeah, I agree.
But I wonder how many truly do. Obviously, these people must be getting something from it, or else why would they continue to do it? I mean, even if you're stealing, it takes work to steal. Like, there's an irony in that, but like, it takes like a lot of work to steal and then like put the site up and like put the downloads up with the graphics. So clearly, like, there's enough people to make it like worth their effort.
Yep.
Oh, maybe I'm convincing myself more people than I thought.
This is not working out. Yeah.
Wait. I'll stop thinking about that.
Well, I can tell you now. I mean, there's been lots of shops that pop up on, I don't know if I can mention them, Etsy, and it's all, they basically have stolen a whole lot of work off, other marketplaces and literally opened their own shop selling them. It happens all the time, and it's quite a story to get it removed. I got to tell you, through Etsy, I'm giving them a little bit of a spanking here. They're not easy to deal with when it comes to that. You literally have to jump through so many hoops to get them to respond. They may take down a listing, but to actually get them to close a shop down, even though you have 5 people sending them, notices that the work's stolen, they just don't do it.
Well, imagine from their perspective, they look at it and they think, oh, well, if we did that every time someone wrote us and something was bad, then we don't get to make as much money. So let's make it really hard. I mean, that's how I would imagine these people think about it. Yeah. It's really screwed up.
It is screwed up, because it just means that you're perpetuating how easy it is to open a shop with illegal goods. I don't know.
Well, there's probably some people listening, hopefully not, because our listeners are decent, kind people. There's probably people listening going, new business venture.
That sounds like a good idea.
So, listeners, you want to make a quick buck? Here's how.
You know what we need? This is this is kind of related to your lawyer idea. We need, do you guys have Dog the Bounty Hunter over there?
Yeah.
Okay. We need people that are independent contractor Dog the Bounty Hunter styles that are just look, I'm going to go out and just find these creeps stealing your stuff.
And break their legs.
Yeah. No, not that. But
there's that Lisa darkness.
Right. I'm going to intimidate them and make sure they know not to do this, and you won't have to hear anything. You're just going to hear about all the what do you call it? Trophies I bring back of the people that I've had take down stuff, and
that was somebody's head, you had.
Yeah, I was thinking a scalp, but I thought that was very offensive, so I didn't say it. I was, for people that can't see, obviously I was holding my hand up like I was holding something.
No, that's a bit much, Dustin. Let's rein it back. Just get a necklace made out of their teeth or something.
I was kind of thinking Hudson's Bay Company furs, or something like that. Just have someone report back to you and be I did that. That would be a legit business. It's the Wild West, man. No, there's no cops to do it. So we need these, people from the Westerns. Yeah, that just go out into the wild and are looking for it.
I'm kind of thinking a cross between Shylock with his pound of flesh and Tony Soprano.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, I like Tony Soprano.
Or Ray Donovan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be scary.
If anyone listening has a particularly criminally minded, hard family member or friend, hit us up. Hashtag honest designers and tag in your Tony Soprano family figure.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, goodness.
Sometimes I think we could maybe have more people doing that are these evil debt collectors that call and insult people and and do things like that, they could just move into this field and no. Oh.
What's cracking me up is how incongruous it is with Lisa's products. So you get this gangster showing up on your door. It's like, thought you could do that with the bunnies, did you?
They like pull up a picture like, you've been selling these bunnies? Take another look. Take a close look.
You're going to rue the day you got this furry little fella.
I would pay to watch a documentary of that.
Me too.
We should make a documentary of that. That'd be so cool.
Well, I'm thinking now we need to do a YouTube skit or something.
We could literally, I would pay for tickets and fly out, like if other people would go with me and like knock on the doors and be like, hey. It'd be like some
show me your bunnies.
Yeah, I was going to say you can do that thing where you reverse track their IP in some cases. Just freak them out.
Oh, goodness. Sure. Okay, that was good. Therapeutic. But, actually, while we were laughing, I was thinking, that's what often I do. I have to just laugh about it because you have to find a way to deal with the stress. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, we touched on the stress and the destructive mindset earlier. And I think in any situation when you're feeling that anxious, you're almost not yourself. You go so deep into this black hole of like despair that you really lose all perspective for the wider world. So if anything, I hope bringing a bit of perspective and hopefully a bit of levity through this episode, because I guarantee there will be listeners who are going through this exact thing because it is such a far-reaching issue. And hopefully for you listening along at home or in the gym or whatever, just take a bit of solace that we all deal with this. Everyone deals with this. The industry keeps going. People keep making a living. It doesn't destroy them. Even in the worst case scenario, like Lisa's, there's generally a resolution. And even if there isn't, it's not gonna end what you're doing. It's not taking away your talent. It's not taking away your drive or your fans, or in most cases, even your customers.
I remember someone giving me this brilliant piece of advice, and they said something like 95% of the things you're worried will happen to you won't happen. And when they do, they won't be nearly as bad as you thought. And I found that to be completely true with these issues.
Yeah, for sure. So, Lisa, given that you have been the star of this show, the victim maybe, any closing thought to kind of wrap up?
Yeah, I would say concentrate on getting your mind in a healthy space about it, because that's going to be your weapon. I know that sounds cheesy, but that is basically the only weapon you really have is how you feel about it, because it can eat you alive, or it can make you feel that you can still go forward and create and change your perspective, because ultimately for me it's made me feel more the need to create for the people that really care about my work. It's given me that drive even more. So yeah, I think focus on that and concentrate on the stuff that really counts, and try your best to ignore the stuff that's not important. Well, it doesn't. That's negative, should I say?
Yeah, and hit us up on social if you're going through this. Don't go through it alone. So tag all of the hosts here and hashtag honest designers, and we'll get back to you, because it can be really good just to share. And I think the support you get is incredible, actually, when you do publicly, moan or share this stuff.
Yeah, people were so
everyone's like,
reaching.
oh, that's terrible, we're there for you, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and if you remember when we started this show, we all agreed it was way before it was a podcast. We were like, man, it's therapeutic to literally just talk to some other people, and they shake their heads and say, oh yeah, that happened to me too, or yes. I remember just knowing other people feel that way is such a relief.
It is.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. We hope that it showed you how to battle online theft and focus on developing your craft rather than getting hung up on those who seek to ruin it. As always, you can find full show notes over at honestdesigners.com, or find us over on iTunes by searching for The Honest Designers Show. If today's episode helped you, then it would mean so much to us if you took just a moment to leave us a quick review over on iTunes, as this is the best way for fellow designers to discover the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next week right here on the Honest Designers Show.